podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
Blueberry.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Honey?
Yes?
Did you leave anything for me?
Sure I did. There's still candy left.
One fun size. That's not.
It's left, and it's candy. You
honestly,
sure you're going to eat that?
I'm so glad Halloween is over.
For you.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
some of us, Halloween's never over.
Yes, but it is over for now. We're in November, and we are going to get back to serious stuff.
Oh, bother.
Oh, bother. This week we're going to examine the debate that's been going on for the last month about cinema versus superhero film.
Yes. Well, you call it a debate. I call it a flat-out attack.
No, not really. But we'll discuss it more right here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Like sands through the hourglass.
This is Subject Cinema.
On air, online, on now. From the hub of the universe, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, this is Subject Cinema, with your hosts, T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TC and Kim.
Oh, no, wait. I found some more. Here's some more candy.
What?
Here.
Half a Junior Mint. Where did this come from?
My purse.
Here, Pigpen. Keep it. Ew. Gross. Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number
Thank you.
639, day and date November 3rd, 2019. Almost took us back a year.
Yeah.
Daylight savings time has now begun, so that's explaining why I just almost screwed up the year.
Yeah.
Why do we still have daylight savings
I
time?
don't know.
I know the farmers were needing it, but a lot of it's been automated since they actually needed it. So
Yeah. Well, the
we should go to standard time 20.
The savings part of savings time, wasn't that because of the oil that they used for the lamps and things like that
I
back
don't know. I
in
think
the
it
day?
was something like that. Yeah.
Something like that for stuff that we don't use anymore, unless you're like Amish.
We really
or
don't
whatever.
need daylight savings time anymore.
No.
But I mean,
It's a pain in the butt.
there was a time when I was a kid when it was in permanent position for a while because of the energy crisis.
Mm-hmm.
President Ford, I had to get up and go to school in the dark at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was pretty scary.
Back in the days of gas lines and stuff like that.
That's
Ask your
not
parents.
what we're going to talk about this week.
No.
This week we're going to devote our whole show to the latest controversy. Not really not latest. It's actually been going on for about a month.
Yeah. But we've been quiet about it until
We've
now.
mentioned it here and there a little bit, but not really talked much about it all the way through. Back in October, Martin Scorsese had an print interview with the British film magazine Empire, which is a great publication. We love it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asked about his feelings about Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
His quote was, quote, "I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the honest thing I can the closest I can think of them as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under their circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being, close quote. We have talked about this because I remember doing that as Marty before. People got a little bit pissed off, and so we tried to clarify it a few days later at the premiere of The Irishman in England, at the, I think, London Film Festival. It's not cinema, it's something else. We shouldn't be invaded by it. We need cinemas to step up and show films that are narrative films. He just kept digging in deeper and deeper. Until finally, this week, he spoke with Entertainment Tonight. And he's trying to soothe the fires here. Let's say a family wants to go to an amusement park. That's a good thing, you know. And at theme parks, there's these cinematic expressions. They're a new art form. It's something different from films that are shown normally in theaters, that's all. My concern is losing the screens to massive theme park films, which I say again, they're their own new art form. Cinema now is changing. We have so many venues. There are so many ways to make films. So enjoyable. Fine, go in. It's an event, and it's great to go to an event like an amusement park. But don't crowd out Greta Gerwig, and don't crowd out Paul Thomas Anderson and Noah Baumbach and those people in terms of theaters. So basically, what he's saying is, there's so many blockbusters, and the theaters are putting them in so many theaters, so many, out of the 20 or 30 multiplexes,
right,
that the smaller films are getting pushed out.
Okay. First off, to Mr.
Wait.
Oh, no, all right. Okay.
Next up, Francis Ford Coppola had to get involved, as he is kind of want to do. Shortly after Martin Scorsese's comments, Coppola had this to say on the same subject. When Martin Scorsese says that the Marvel pictures are not cinema, he's right, because we expect to learn something from cinema. We expect to gain something, some enlightenment, some knowledge, some inspiration. I don't know that anyone gets anything out of seeing the same movie over and over again. Martin was kind when he said it was not cinema. He didn't say it's despicable, which I just say it is. Close quote.
Can I go now?
Now he's clarified his remarks. He said that the remarks were mistranslated by a French journalist. His most recent revision from Friday, I believe. Personally, I don't like the idea of franchises, the notion that you can keep repeating what is essentially the same movie for financial gain. In other words, what is a formulaic approach? I feel that approach is taken to reduce the economic risk of movies, and I feel the risk factor is an element that makes movies sometimes be great. Also, the formulaic film draws more available resources to them, leaving little for more daring productions, reversing diversity. In some ways, I think that cinema is like food. Certainly you can add things to make it tempting, tasty, and enjoyable, but it must also be nutritious to qualify as real food, close quote. Now, before we go off on him, let's think about the arguments that they're making. Their arguments are valid, and I've always said that. I just wish they hadn't attacked, or as many people, including us, feel, they attacked the superhero films in a way that made it look like they were bad. I don't think either one of them thinks they're bad. They're just not what they do. And, I hardly think that Marty has got anything to say about it when he just released a new movie that's 3 hours and 42 minutes long. That's longer than Return of the King, for God's sake. Longer than Gone with the Wind by 4 minutes. And it's like...
And has a ton of special effects thanks to the de-aging used on the actors in the movie.
But that's the only big special effect in it.
But it's running throughout the whole effing movie.
It is. I don't think these guys meant to trash the fans of these movies. I think their comments... I wish you could see her face. I think these comments are geared at the executives. They're telling them, these are great, but give equal time to the movies that are not franchises. They don't have to be, really, they don't have to be a, I'm trying to find the right word. It's possible for a film to be excellent and gain an audience without being a franchise. Yeah. But it doesn't happen very often. One of the most successful, I think, over the last decade was Animal Kingdom in 2010. Indie film from Australia that blew everybody away. It's now a big hit series on TNT. And it was not drawing on the then just launching superhero films. At the time, there was Iron Man and a couple of other ones out. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and have your say, because you're going to burst if I don't let you.
No. I want you to completely finish.
Well, I am finished pretty much there. I think I don't think they had the right idea, and I do think, if I might just add this one other thing, after Coppola's remarks about Despicable, Disney CEO Bob Iger went off on him, saying that he thought the word despicable would more typically be linked with, quote, someone who committed mass murder, close quote.
Yeah. Like the people that Coppola and Scorsese tend to glorify in their films.
Not so much Coppola as Scorsese. Scorsese does a lot more.
Excuse me?
Well, honey, Coppola's done all kinds of different stuff. A lot more varied than Martin. Scorsese has done 80% films involved with organized crime or crime.
Yeah.
And maybe Coppola may have done 50%. The Godfather films are the best known, and the Cotton Club, but the rest are not all gangster films.
Apocalypse Now.
That's a war picture.
Which some people would argue was... I'm not going to go there, never mind.
What? Go.
Some people might argue that the whole Vietnam War was country-sanctioned mass murder, but I'm not going to go there.
Well, they did at the time, and there was a whole slew of those kind of movies in the late 70s, like Coming Home and The Deer Hunter and Apocalypse Now. But let's relate this back to the superhero film. Mm-hmm. We want to take a chance to tell this episode to tell Mr. Scorsese, who I have the utmost respect for, and Mr. Coppola, who I've never been a huge fan of, in all honesty, of what I've seen of him in interviews and stuff. Mm-hmm. He comes across as arrogant and pompous, and a number of other words where Marty seems like one of the guys. We want to take this time to tell people why we think the superhero movies are worth having.
Yep.
But I personally agree that I've complained to Showcase itself.
Yeah.
That they fill the multiplexes. We have 20 screens in our theater over here. And when you play, a big event film like Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man Far From Home or Godzilla King of the Monsters, in 5 or 6 of those theaters, it cuts down the amount of other films you can bring in. When you have 3 films out at the same time with all 3, 4, 5 cinemas, there's no space for any of the critically acclaimed stuff that I'd like to see. No. We have to go into town to see most of them.
That is true. I would argue that is the fault of the cinemas, not the films.
It is.
But nobody listens to me anyway.
Well, I think they both have kind of clarified that it's the studios and not the fans, not the genre itself. Martin has even said he doesn't have a problem with them. They're just a different level of entertainment, but not to forget the indies. I mean, if we did forget the indies, a lot of our favorite movies would have never been out there.
No, that's true.
I mean...
My turn now?
Well, yeah, I said it was.
Okay, no, no, I'm not trying to be unkind. I just don't want to step on what you're saying.
No, go ahead.
They have the right to their opinion. They both definitely have the right to their opinion. Everybody has the right to their opinion. Yay, First Amendment. I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is F the both of yous. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people, and this includes you and I, both complain that lately it seems like everybody's playing the victim card. Everybody's always saying that they're being triggered, and everybody always feels like they're being attacked and stuff like that. And to be perfectly honest, when I started reading this stuff, screw being triggered. I just felt like I'm being attacked. And I don't know about everybody else out there. I mean, I try to be a good person. I try to be a nice person. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When you poke this dog with a sharp stick, this bitch is going to bite.
There was no poke to anybody in either one of those statements. They did not bring down the fans. They did not turn down or slam the fans for what they liked. That was neither one of theirs intention, and you could see that. What they were saying was it's the mentality in Hollywood that is making it harder and harder for indie producers and directors to get anywhere with their films because, Marvel is like eating up 60% of the box office. I never took it as a personal attack. You always do. So it's like that's the difference between the two of us.
I guess. Maybe I've just spent maybe it's because I've spent my whole life being attacked because I dare to be a female that loves science fiction, fantasy, horror, superheroes, and all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I've had to deal with that and you haven't. And that's the truth.
No, that's true. That is true.
That is the truth.
Women get a harder time with fandom.
Women have been
But that's also something that happens within the fandom, not within the director's community.
No, that is true.
So you're out there taking your displaced anger and putting it on them, telling them you're angry at what they said about you when they never said anything about you in the first place. That's the way I feel about this whole brouhaha. It's the press making this problem. There is no real problem here. Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, and anyone else who has jumped to their defense have a right to believe the way that they want to believe, but they have never, not once, taken a pot shot at the fandom. Only at the studios and the machines and the distributors, the exhibitors. This isn't about the fans. Everybody's insisting that it's about the fans, and it's not. Neither one of them brought up fans ever. It's like their problem with this is the corporate money machine.
My problem with what they said, all right, let's take out the fact that, yes, I did feel attacked. And maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe it's because I've been attacked so effing much.
We just said that. Let's not say it again. Let's move forward.
That I'm a little too quick to jump at somebody because I feel like they're going for my throat.
I admit I was irritated when it first came out. I was the one that sent it to you. I said, this is, that sounds awful. And then I read the whole story and I realized they're not attacking me because I enjoy going to superhero movies. They're attacking the money machine because they're putting all their money in superhero movies and not enough in the indies and in the individual serious performances.
And then you're going, oh crap, I sent this to her and I know what I'm going to get back is going to be an email equivalent of Godzilla roaring.
There is always a place for smaller for smaller films.
Right. My problem is this whole very elitist attitude of, oh, these movies have nothing to say. Okay.
Yes, that's what we want to talk about.
To that, I would like to say to both Mr. Coppola and Mr. Scorsese, you're wrong.
And I agree with that. That's the one thing we agree on.
I'd especially like to say to Mr. Scorsese that I think that's wrong because, for one thing, one of the biggest things that can come out of a superhero film and out of a film like Star Wars and out of the old-time westerns and all those kind of things is the idea that there are good people and good people can win over bad people. Mm-hmm. If you tried to count the number of positive, decent characters in a Martin Scorsese film, you're going to have you're going to have one hand with one.
Oh, my sides.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're going to have one hand with one thumb sticking up, and they're. And I'm not saying that they're bad characters, as in they're badly written characters. That's not what I'm saying.
No. But
I'm saying they're bad
not redeemable.
people.
They're not redeemable because most of them, at least in Martin's case, are gangsters.
These are bad people. These are people who do bad things. These are people who hurt who hurt innocent people. And these are the people in his films that we as the audience are supposed to identify with? Screw you!
I think that's a good point. I think that's a really good point. Martin's characters are always,
I'm sorry,
less than perfect when it comes to their life in whatever they are doing. See Casino, Goodfellas, any of those.
Not for nothing, but if you had a little girl, would you rather if your little girl had to emulate a person from a movie, would you rather your daughter want to be a strong, powerful woman like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, or a character like Karen from Goodfellas, who is completely enamored with the fact that she's dating a gangster? That it's prestigious to be dating a gangster, a person with a drug habit, a person who gets her addicted to drugs.
Right, yeah. It's, I understand that a lot. It makes sense. But they've also, in their careers, done some stories, a few of them, both of the musicals that bombed, where the characters were not all that bad. Coppola's vanity musical One from the Heart in the early 80s, Martin Scorsese's New York, New York from 1977. These characters were not all bad. They weren't, all connected to, crime or anything.
No.
But they weren't exactly likable either.
And the movies tanked.
They both tanked, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that has to do with that. I think it just has to do with the fact that musicals were out at the time and nobody was really interested in them.
No, I mean, also when you consider
and
that
New York did give us the title theme, which is
right.
a
Also, when you consider that the 70s also the ideas of musicals from the 70s included things like Can't Stop the Music and the Apple. That kind
of those are from the 80s, actually.
Really?
Apple was 1980. Can't Stop the Music was 1981.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
You're thinking more along the lines of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which was 78.
Please don't talk about that movie anymore.
And Thank God It's Friday, which was 78.
I've actually never seen that.
That's a terrible movie.
So I can't.
The soundtrack is awesome, but the movie is terrible.
But
Donna Summer. That's the only good thing about that film.
Seriously. And I'm not saying that, and I'm definitely not going to be one of these people that's going to be like, oh, well, I'll never watch a Martin Scorsese film, or I'll never watch a film by Francis Ford Coppola again.
You enjoy Casino. You've watched it a number of times.
Casino's a fascinating film. It is a really fascinating film. They are both amazing directors.
They are.
At what they do.
What they do is great, and they deserve all the critical acclaim that they get, and they deserve the credit that they get. But they're not for everybody.
No, they're not for everybody. And superhero movies aren't for everybody.
Somebody
movie
got
is
blasted.
for everybody.
I think it was Samuel L. Jackson, I think, when he was talking about what Martin said, that said, not all of his movies are great, and the critics jumped all over him. But, I'm not a Scorsese fan.
No.
I like the man himself. He's a very intelligent and funny man who is obviously loves cinema, loves film. I adore the fact that he is a big champion of film restoration, of film history, and that's one of my top things. I like that. Coppola the same way, although he's a little more prickly when I've seen him in interviews and stuff.
Right.
I have no love lost for them personally, but I've never been a fan of either one of their films. I mean, I've only seen 2 or 3 Coppola films, 2 or 3 Scorsese films. I think I've only seen one Coppola film my whole life, because I've just avoided them, because I know I don't like movies like that.
Right.
And people are saying, you've never seen blah, blah, blah. No. I never saw Citizen Kane until we started this show. And it made me an enormous fan of Orson Welles.
Right.
But I've seen enough. I had not seen any of Orson's stuff before.
Right.
I've seen enough of Scorsese and Coppola to know they're not my cup of tea either.
But even
so
somebody
it works
like,
both ways.
Even somebody like Orson Welles, who you became a fan of as a director, I would say you were already a fan of him as an actor, but that you became a fan of his.
I was a fan of his as a person. I didn't really know him as an actor either.
Okay.
As an
You've seen
entertainer,
several Welles films since we started doing this show.
Several of them, yeah.
And some
Not
of
enough
them,
of them. We still haven't seen enough of them, but
no, but and some of them you think are amazing, and some of them that you've seen, you're like, eh. I mean, we sat there watching The Magnificent Ambersons, and I was completely taken into the world of that movie, and you were just sitting there going, ugh.
The Magnificent Ambersons, for me, boils down to the cast of characters. Mm-hmm. There isn't one likable person in that film, except for Joseph Cotton's character, and he gets crapped on.
Yeah.
Everybody else, the lead played by Tim, what's his name? I'm sorry, I've forgotten his last name. Mm-hmm. He is thoroughly unlikable. And I mean, if you're going to show me a lead that I'm supposed to empathize with, he is not it. And that's why I didn't like it.
Right.
I liked Citizen Kane. I love Touch of Evil. Mm-hmm. F for Fake is a freaking masterpiece. Mm-hmm. And I'm like...
Third Man, amazing film.
Which one?
The Third Man.
Third Man. Well, he didn't direct that. He was just a co-star, but...
Yeah, but I still think directing Orson Welles is like... If,
No, people don't give Carol Reed enough credit. Wells worked there. He did suggest stuff. He was helpful, but he was an actor and not a director.
He was, but seriously, if Orson
Welles... I
love
love that film, too, yeah.
If Orson Welles came to you and said, yeah, I'd like to change this line or whatever, are you going to say no?
It's just over the past few years, I understand where they're coming from, though. Mm-hmm. We've seen a number of older films recently.
Right.
We've rejoined the Brattle recently, and have been going out there to see some of these classic films that I hadn't seen. You've seen a couple of them. Mm-hmm. I loved Double Indemnity. I liked Laura even better.
Yeah, wasn't that a great
movie?
And
I was stunned by both of those. They're both... I mean, I knew Double Indemnity. My God, Barbara Stanwyck and Fred McMurray.
Really?
I knew that was a classic. I knew it was a great film. You had a great cast. And...
Edward G. Robinson.
I couldn't think of his name. And it's a terrific film. Mm-hmm. I really am glad I got the chance to see it on the big screen. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed that immensely. Laura... I am not really familiar with Clifton Webb outside of his butler character that he does in some of those films, and I can't remember the name. Yeah. I don't know. It's not Mr. Belvedere. I don't.
Well,
think
it's an amazing film
and
with the cast.
Dana Andrews, who I'd never seen that young.
Vincent Price,
and Gene Tierney.
Yeah, and Dame. Well, she wasn't a Dame yet. Judith Anderson.
Yeah, and that movie is spectacularly good.
Yeah,
that's a Billy Wilder, is it not?
I think so.
And it was...
You asked me too quick.
Fabulous. It's a fabulous film. And I understand. These are the kind of films that they're talking about, Scorsese and Coppola. These are the kind of films that resonate. And you don't need 18 sequels. You don't need action, $400 million worth of CGI special effects.
Well, from what I heard, we didn't need Godfather 3, but we got it. So
I know, but Francis Ford Coppola is actually going to re-edit it and re-release it.
Coppola is not exactly immune to that.
No, he's not.
And he didn't direct that, so...
Scorsese, I understand where he's coming from when it comes to quality, because I love quality films. We both count Casablanca as one of our favorite films. And a lot of these older films, Hitchcock... magnificent usually, and other directors that I've liked, and I love good stories from modern directors, stuff that we've fallen in love with that the critics haven't necessarily got, stuff like Griffin Dunn's far underseen Fierce People, The Wonderful Perks of Being a Wallflower, which was our best picture that year, 2012, from Steven Chbosky,
Animal Kingdom, which you mentioned,
Wrist Cutters, A Love Story. We could go on and on about the indie films that we adore.
Right.
And yet we are devoted superhero films.
Yeah.
Fans.
Yep.
And I think it's wrong, like you, that they say...
Actually, time out real quick. Laura was actually directed by Otto Preminger.
Otto Preminger. I knew it was one of the big names. Thank you. I think that it was... I think it's wrong to say that you can't find characters in these films that are resonant.
I think it's even more wrong to say you can't find teaching moments in these films.
What exactly is a teaching moment, though?
Well,
that's getting into wokester territory, and I don't even want to go there.
No, but their whole thing is, they're basically saying, no, I don't think that's wokester. It's the idea that every film should have something to say.
But that doesn't mean a teaching. That just means a something to say. You don't need something to say to make a good film. None of those earlier ones that I just mentioned said anything. They were just good dramas.
I don't really agree with that. I think all films should have something to say, but...
Well, what does Double Indemnity say?
Crime doesn't pay.
Okay, but that's pretty basic.
But I didn't say it had to be some big esoteric thing that you had to think about for a week and a half.
Okay.
It's basically saying that, that's what it says. Crime doesn't pay. I mean, it's also basically saying that women are untrustworthy, but we won't go into that. That's the whole noir thing. But I mean, even a film, you look at a film like Casablanca, that you might be like, well, what kind of a message is in that film besides Nazis suck? But I mean, every film at that time was saying that, at least from films that weren't made in Germany. But
Casablanca, the main storyline is true love conquers all.
Love conquers everything. And sometimes love doesn't mean being with the person that you love. Sometimes that film is more about love in the truest sense of the word love, in the idea that love means, besides love meaning hearts and flowers and all that, love can also mean sacrifice.
Okay, so I'm going to throw this at you, and this is going to throw you completely.
Yeah, no, go for it.
If those are those basic premises,
right?
What do you get from a film like Deadpool? What's the message in Deadpool?
The message in Deadpool is that
psychotic is fun.
If life hands you lemons, set the lemons on fire and lob them at your enemies.
See, that's not a message. No, that's not a message. There's no message in Deadpool. It's out there just to be silly.
I don't completely agree. The message. I'm not saying this in a way that a film has to have a moral.
Right.
If
we needed that, Filmation could run the entire Hollywood.
If I was going to look at a film like Deadpool and somebody said, "Well, what's the message behind this film?" The message is don't give up, because anybody else who was other people that were going through what Wade went through would just kill themselves. But he's not going to give up. Now, he
can't kill himself, so there's that right there.
Well,
Deadpool 2 opens with him trying to kill himself numerous times.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
No. But people who say, like, oh, well, there's no message behind superhero films. A lot of superhero films, there are lots of messages. You can't see them because either you're not looking or you're ignoring it. Look at a film like Thor. Now, I know a lot of people would say, oh, man.
And we're talking the first Thor?
The first, okay. Yes, the first Thor film. And people are going, wow, it's really weird she picked that film out. But there is a message in that film. The message in that film is...
Don't be a pighead.
If you want to be crass about it, yes. But part of the message in that film is that just because... you're supposed to be a king, you're destined to be king, that doesn't mean you're ready. There's a difference between being a king and being a leader. Okay. That's part of the message of Thor. Uh-huh. At the beginning of the film, Thor's this very arrogant character. He's a prince, and he knows he's destined to be king. By the end of the film, he's learned humility. He's learned that, there's times when you... really need to take a step back and realize everything isn't about you. Mm-hmm. And that there's times when you have to put yourself on the line in front of other people. And that's the qualities of being a leader. I mean, that's the message that I took away from it. So I really don't think... I think saying that, these films don't have any... basically what they're saying is these films don't have the import They're not important films, where all of our films, where people are constantly murdering and backstabbing each other and everything like that, those are important.
I think that is part of the message. And yet, when you sit down and you think about the fact that Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture last year, that it is possible, not necessarily likely, that Avengers Endgame will do the same this year. I'm really at a loss to to understand where they're coming from in that area.
No, I know.
Because it seems every superhero no, I can't say that. Most of the superheroes I've seen on screen in the 21st century have been excellent films. Not all of them. There have been a few clunkers. Spider-Man 3 comes to mind.
Yeah.
And the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which I don't like. I realize the critics love them, and I don't like them for one reason, which we've reiterated here over and over again. I'm not going to get into it. But the films are resonant with me.
Right.
If I'm sitting there and I'm bawling, you've obviously hit a nerve.
Right.
Just like you bawling at the end of Casablanca every time you see it, even though you know what's coming, is the same exact thing.
Yeah.
It's a different generation's take on it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if you go back into the mid-40s and 50s and look at how superheroes were played back then I could understand how they feel about the way they tell things. If anyone who has ever seen the second Batman serial could tell you, or the Captain Marvel serial, or the Captain America serial, which doesn't even use the characters from the comic.
Nope.
And the Captain Marvel serial is pretty bad too. Billy's like 20-something.
No. He's young. He's not as young as he is in the comics, but he's a younger. There are two different actors, I think.
Yeah, there are. But the guy playing Billy is said to be old enough for college.
Oh, all right.
So,
okay.
Because I watched it online.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
It doesn't quite connect.
See, the problem with those films back then. It was, now, I realize the phrase, it's a different time. It is a different time. It was a different time.
See, the first Batman serial.
Yeah, okay.
They made during World War II, and man, is it racist.
Oh, boy. Yeah, the first Batman serial, the villain of the piece is a Japanese doctor that's doing all this bad stuff. And, oh my gosh, I've seen this. I remember renting this from Video Waves, which was the local video store in my hometown, and I remember trotting it on home and putting it in the the VCR, and watching it and sitting there, and I was just like, they didn't really just rewind. No, they really just said that. Oh my gosh. And I remember sitting there and I remember watching this because they are using, I will not use any of the words, they are using some really not good language.
You guys know what the slurs were.
They were slurs used against people of Japan, and I'm not going to say them because I'm not that person.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there, and
although, may I just say, there's no harm in saying them either because you're talking about a context of a film.
I know.
You just don't want to bring them up.
I don't want to say them because they're just distasteful in my mouth.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not that you couldn't discuss those words because that way you could actually make people aware of what you're talking about.
Right. But I don't want to use those words.
Right. That's fine.
Right. But my point is, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this and I'm like, what? I mean, I had never heard words like that in a film.
Right.
And I thought about it and I was like, why would they do that? Oh my gosh.
And you notice Casablanca, which was set during the World War II also, I don't remember them ever using a slang. I think they said kraut once, and that was it.
Yeah.
There was never any derogatory remarks about the German people the way that we did in the shorts that were made around the same time.
I know.
That's interesting.
But I got to thinking about it after my initial stunnedness. I was like, okay, let's think about this for a minute. Let's be rational. Let's take a step back. There was a war on.
Yeah.
And while you look back on that stuff now and you're like, oh, wow, that's not good. I'm not saying it was good back then, but it's understandable from back then. The problem with a lot of those early serials, besides the fact that they were
just terrible.
Okay. There's the Umbrella.
Oh God, the second Batman serial is. You should watch. You can watch it all online. Rip tracks. It is worth it.
You can find it without it if you're brave enough.
No, but it's much better with it.
Oh yeah. But if you take it under the just umbrella statement of they were all terrible, and they were, the problem with them is multi-leveled. The biggest problem with them is the fact that it seems like the people who made these movies never picked up one of the friggin' comics they were based on in their entire friggin' lives.
Yeah. And they all had the exact same plot week after week, with the strong good guy, the weak, helpless female, the sidekick, and the ridiculous, often ridiculous bad guy.
Right. Another problem with a lot of these films, and also, and I know some people out there are now going to want to stone me, but the problem with the Adventures of Superman series, which I actually liked. I actually still like.
I do too.
I know
this. But again, there's no superhero villains.
Yeah, there we go.
You brought up about the 1970s Spider-Man.
Yes,
also
that drove me crazy. For some inane reason, I'm like, why would you buy the rights to the heroes and not buy the rights to the villains, you idiots?
They were too expensive to produce. I'm sure. They could have. That show probably could have made great use out of Lex Luthor, the way that they did on Lois and Clark and other shows. But I think out of that one, they probably would have had more trouble with some of the more fantastical ones like Mxyzptlk or Brainiac. Or them.
I think, and if there's anybody out there who's a real Superman aficionado, correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the Kirk Allen serials or movies, I don't know which, I'm sorry. I think they used Lex Luthor in one of those.
They may have.
I might be wrong. I might be mistaken. But the Batman serials, the Captain America serial.
Captain America was especially bad because they didn't use anything except the name. In the serial, he was a crusading district attorney, and he wasn't Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
That made no sense.
This falls back into the nobody picked up a frickin' comic and looked at it. You know?
I first saw those serials when I was in high school. They ran them, the Captain America series. They always opened, what show was it? Nostalgia Theater, which ran every Sunday night at 11:30 on Channel 2 in Spokane, opened that show every week with a serial.
Right.
And they would run the whole serial over the course of a few weeks. And I watched
and
most
that
of
just
the Captain
drove me
America
nuts.
serial, and I'm like, this isn't Captain America.
That drove me nuts, is the fact that you had Batman, who even up till that point had been around for a number of years, had already had
close to over a dozen at that point, not quite 20.
Right. Had an established rogues gallery, not as enormous as it is now, which could fill a friggin' Rolodex. But there was more than enough. Nope, can't be bothered.
And then we get that stupid, what was the guy's name in the second one?
They had they had Dr. Daka in the first one, played by a Caucasian actor. I'd like to bring up.
That was also par for the course back then.
And the Wizard in the second one.
Part of the reason superhero films are so looked down upon by Martin and Francis, I think, is because they grew up in the era of the William Dozier superheroes. And as serious filmmakers, they were both in, at least, I know Martin was in film school at that time, 65, 66, because his first film was made in 68 or 69. I'm sure part of his disdain for the superhero genre was caused by the Batman television series, which was fun, but it was campy. It was not taken seriously, and it made superheroes look like goofballs. And superhero comics the same way. Wow. It also happened with the Green Hornet. They came around with, although it was more played seriously.
That was played much more seriously.
and then they came up with all these rip-offs on the other channels like Captain Nice and Mr. Terrific.
That were straight up played for laughs.
And superheroes really didn't come into their own as serious material until 1978 with the debut of Superman the movie. The lot of the series that were in the 70s were aimed at teenagers. They were dumbed down. A lot of them didn't use, Wonder Woman didn't use any of the
No.
They used a couple from the Nazis that were in the early ones in the first season. But that was Hulk
not...
didn't, and Spider-Man didn't. None of the Marvel shows that CBS ran.
Although The Incredible Hulk, and I will fight people on this, was a great series.
Yeah, well, I was never a fan of the show.
Wasn't perfect, but it was great.
Because I was never a big fan of the character. But I loved Wonder Woman. I loved Spider-Man, even though it was lame. Not nearly as lame as the one that was made in Japan the same year. But,
I don't know if lame is the right word for that. Terrifying might be the right word for that.
So these are, Superman, the movie, December 1978, was the first one to really use a comic villain in Lex Luthor.
Right.
And then that would continue to grow throughout the 80s when they did a few here and there that weren't very good and bombed, like
and then 1989 rolled around.
Yeah,
and we got Tim Burton's Batman.
Saved the superhero genre for what it was.
Up to a point, yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that because his.
Well, he did, because by that point Superman had already dwindled down with Superman 3 and Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, which were both terrible films.
Yeah, they were.
And so
Superman 2 is actually pretty okay, though. It's okay. I didn't say it was perfect.
I had never seen Superman on the big screen until earlier this year, or late last year. I forget when we went, and it was a blast.
It was really awesome, and I cried.
But it was truly awesome to see it on the big screen.
And I cried.
Yes, she
did. Again, I just.
Although I have to admit, my favorite interpretation.
I
is
cry a
still in
lot.
Man of Steel.
I cry a lot at the movie.
Man of Steel was now anyone. I don't see how you can look at Man of Steel. Which is Zack Snyder's take on the character from 2014, I think, maybe 13.
13, I think.
When you started your new job at the same time we went to see it.
Yeah.
I don't see how you could look at Man of Steel and say it's not full of the intelligence and such, because that's one thing that Snyder was trying to do physically, was imbue a sense of worth, a sense of self, a sense of knowledge, and a sense of relations to the DC universe. And unfortunately, the critics decided they didn't like that, and so Man of Steel barely made its money back. Batman vs. Superman, big hit with the fans, disaster with the critics, and Justice League, notwithstanding, was just a terrible film. I mean, I enjoyed it because of Ezra, mostly, but I enjoyed it
because of Jason Momoa
and Gal Gadot.
And Gal Gadot.
It is just the solo films have been better.
Yeah,
the Superman film, Man of Steel, great. Wonder Woman, great. Aquaman shocked the crap out of me. It was awesome. And they all have great stories.
They do.
So I don't understand why these guys come down on that, because it's not in the gangster mode. That's what I mean. Martin, whose occasional side trips outside of organized crime movies have involved organized crime on the side, Raging Bull, a biopic about Jake LaMotta, who was a wife-beating piece of trash from beginning to end.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that's the way he's portrayed in Martin's films.
Yeah. The thing I think with Scorsese and
he complains about Man of Steel.
Yeah, hold up. I think where they're coming from, and if I'm putting words in anybody's mouth, I'm sorry. Where they're not seeing is that people who are not into superhero movies assume superhero movies are where everything is black and white and good always wins over evil and stuff like that.
Yes, and Martin actually admitted he's never seen most of them.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't get into them. Well, why do you automatically assume this? Which one did you see that you couldn't get into? Was it Iron Man? Was it Spider-Man 3? Was it, Fantastic Four with Miles Teller, which is terrible? Was it
that would make people hate movies? Never mind superhero movies.
Yeah,
just
when we can honestly say that the Corman's Fantastic Four was better than the Josh Trank one.
Yeah. At least more watchable, as in we could make fun of it.
And it was genuinely, it could tell they were genuinely having fun making it.
Yeah.
I think that it was,
My thing is, what I'm saying is, yes, good does win over evil in these films, but it's not just a case of superhero comes in and solves everything because they're a superhero. There is
good
struggle.
does not always win over evil in these films.
No.
It does not. You just said it does.
It does in most of them, but it doesn't always.
It does not always.
No, it doesn't.
See Avengers,
Infinity War. Right.
The end of that movie left her a sobbing mess in the theater. She felt for these people. You can't say they don't make you feel, because they do.
Yeah.
She lost her crap when Bucky powdered off.
Yeah, it was bad.
And Spider-Man.
Oh, that was really bad.
I don't feel so well, Mr. Stark.
Yeah, cue hysterical, screaming, sobbing, snot running down my face. It was not a pretty
I don't
picture.
think it's fair of them to say
no, it's not.
These movies don't make you feel.
Absolutely not.
They do. It's not done in the same way. Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with that. But I mean, I'll be honest, I did not want to really go see Shazam. I was afraid they were going to ruin this film because I've not really wrapped my mind around this idea that he's no longer Captain Marvel. He's simply Shazam, and that he keeps Billy's mentality as an adult.
Yeah.
That movie was freaking awesome. I was so surprised at how good it was. And it made me, I mean, I've been a Zachary Levi fan for a while, but I love Jack Dylan Grazer, who played Freddie Freeman. He is brilliant. And Asher Angel was great as Billy, too, although I still like Freddie better. I really think that people didn't give that film.
It was a great film. It had a really amazing
story. I'm glad
story.
I gave that film a chance I normally wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because I ended up, I'm really not happy with the way they changed it, but for what they did, it was excellent. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah. The thing it really boils down to, and now I've mentioned this before, and other people have mentioned this. I can't act like I came up with this idea all on my own, because I'm not that smart. But other people have brought up the fact that superheroes are this generation and the generation before, really. They are our version of characters like Hercules and Gilgamesh and Beowulf and all these other characters.
Oh, there was a good animated Beowulf a few years ago that was excellent that people really didn't get. And
no.
If they should have. It was awesome.
But if you go back and you look at those stories about characters like Hercules and Beowulf and characters like that, these people weren't perfect either. These people were flawed. These people made mistakes. But at the end of it all, they still got the job done. Mm-hmm. And their stories were out there to inspire people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That you can be the hero in your own story, too.
Mm-hmm. Be your own hero.
Yes. And that's what superhero movies do. Mm-hmm.
There's a great song.
They teach you about love. They teach you about friendship. They teach you about teamwork. So I just don't understand how people who make their living out of movies that are all about murder, drug dealing, constantly stabbing people in the back, corruption, and all this other stuff like that can be like, well, our films are important and those ones aren't.
They're not saying they were important. They're saying that they didn't get them as cinema. That they're a spectacle.
Right.
But I challenge Martin, in particular, who makes these kind of movies. I mean, granted, he's not Brian De Palma's Scarface.
No.
But he makes these mafia movies like The Irishman, like Goodfellas, like, all of these other films. Mm-hmm. What makes them any different when it comes to their rubbing people out and fighting and all that stuff than the scenes from Captain America, the Winter Soldier? Those fights are somebody trying to save humanity.
Right.
Trying to save people from doing something really horrible.
Right.
That movie, of all, Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel film, bar none. Mm-hmm. Because I love the fact that it's telling us, and Washington is ignoring its entire message, There's too much surveillance. There's too much of politicking. People aren't listening to the real people anymore. That's the message behind that movie.
Yeah, it is.
And it worked beautifully. You named it your best picture that year.
I did.
And
I
it was
stick by
really...
that. Yeah, we're never going to say that, like I said before, we're never going to say, oh, well, Coppola's movies and Scorsese's movies, they suck. Who cares what they think? Because they do amazing...
No, they don't suck. They're awesome
films.
films.
Yeah, they do amazing films.
But they're not for my cup of tea.
No.
For the most part.
And the whole thing about, well, these franchises, blah, blah, blah.
They have a point about franchises. And I think Hollywood is getting that. I mean, how many franchises this year alone have collapsed? Finally, the studios are finally getting the message that when people don't want the franchise anymore, stop making them for a while.
Well, there's a difference.
Men in Black International, bomb. Terminator, Dark Fate, big bomb this weekend. Whole bunch of stuff.
I kind of feel like there's a difference between a franchise and a universe. I feel like there's a difference there. A franchise is telling the same story with just one little difference. A universe is, you have all these characters from all different places who have all different motives and do all kinds of different things in different ways. And maybe they might all, or not even all of them, some of them might come together to fight a common enemy or something like that.
They're all connected. Right? They're all connected that way?
Yeah.
Then they're a franchise as well as a universe. It's the same thing. I think that there's nothing wrong with a franchise if the franchise says something. And
see,
my problem is that too many times these blockbusters. I see what you're saying. A film like the Marvel universe, or the Star Wars universe, or the DC extended universe, which hasn't gelled properly yet. Even Universal's attempt at a dark universe with all their horror films. Those are universes that are within, as opposed to a true franchise, which of our day and age, probably the closest thing to come to that are the Transformers films.
No, I wouldn't even say that. If you asked me a definition of a franchise of films, the Friday the 13th movies.
Okay.
Those are the same films over and over and over and over and over again, with the exception of the first Friday the 13th film. The rest of the Friday the 13th films are the same film again and again and again.
Yeah.
Jason killing people that boff in the woods.
Yeah.
Or boff in space. Or whatever. That's the same thing. That's a franchise. It's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again with a little tweak here and there. Even when they reboot the whole thing like they did in 2009. Sorry, Jared. But it's... You see what I mean there?
I also think it's not so bad that you can have sequels without franchising it. There's a lot of times, franchises are considered any sequel. If you have more than one film in a series, it becomes a franchise, which incidentally means that Coppola is guilty with The Godfather.
Yeah.
Films. But
pretty much.
You can have sequels without creating a franchise and have them interlink each other. Americans don't know how to do that very well because the bottom line is bing, 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 all the profit.
Right.
Norway has shown the way with that, with two excellent disaster films in the same universe, The Quake and The Wave.
Right.
Reverse order, The Wave and The Quake. Both featuring the same family in two different areas, and they're really, really well done.
The unluckiest family in Norway.
Yeah, it does seem that way. You care about the characters, you care about the incidents, the effects are minimally expensive and unbelievably good, and their stories are tight and well written.
Right.
There's a reason why the Wave was put in by Norway as its Academy Award nominee that year. It didn't make the final 5, but it was up there. And The Quake, which was the sequel, got just as big a rave reviews last year, mostly because of the stellar cast.
Yep.
And the incredibly tight writing. You can do sequels and not have a franchise. And that, I have not heard for sure. I guess they were talking about a third film that would close the trilogy.
Right.
I don't know what they're doing or on it yet, but being the disaster movie fan that I am, what are you smirking about?
I'm just sitting here thinking of something silly. Never mind.
I'm being the disaster film that I am, and I love watching even the bad ones. I mean, I do. Avalanche.
I will
Terrible.
attest to that because he's made me watch some of them and they hurt.
The Quake and the Wave and the Quake are quite honestly two of the best disaster films of all time.
Wow.
I would put them both in my top 10, and the Wave would be damn close to the top. Mm-hmm. It's just excellent, and Del Toro won my Best Actress that year.
Yep.
As the mom,
Yep.
she's incredible in that film, and
So
I'm like,
I guess
go ahead.
So what are we really trying to say?
We're trying to say that it takes all people to enjoy movies.
Yeah.
It takes all people to like all types of movies.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to like Goodfellas.
No.
Just like everybody is not going to like Ant-Man.
Right.
And everybody is not going to sit back. And while we enjoy watching classic films like stuff from the 40s and 50s.
Or further back. I mean, both of our favorite films is Metropolis.
Oh God,
It's
Metropolis
a silent
is awesome.
film for crying
Metropolis
out loud.
is awesome. But even to modern classics, I don't go in for a lot of the modern classics that were made using Turner Classic Movies definition. Those are movies made after 1970. There's a lot of films.
Does that mean we're both classic editions?
Yeah, at this point, 90s is classic now.
I'm
90s songs were on classic
rock.
rock.
In the corner.
So,
I'll be right back.
I mean, a lot of great films were made in the 70s.
Yeah.
But I gravitated toward blockbusters.
Right.
Most of them were disaster films. Although, there are little gems that I found later in life, like The Last Picture Show,
right,
that I think are fantastic.
See, the thing is, films come in... Now, this is going to sound really weird, and I know that some people are going, from you? Wow. But, hashtag sarcasm. But films come into your life at certain points, and whether or not you're ready for them is how they resonate with you. Mm-hmm. If you showed a child... Like, if you showed an 8-year-old child a film like Koyaanisqatsi, they're not going to get it.
No.
If you show a 28-year-old, if you take that person 20 years later and go, hey, can you watch this film? And same person sees Koyaanisqatsi when they're 28, they're probably going to sit there and go, wow, that was so amazing. They may not even depressing. They may not even remember that they saw it when they were 8.
And by the way, just for the record, that film was produced by Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah. So he gets involved with decent stuff every once in a while. But my point is that there are certain points in your life when a film comes into your life, and I know that sounds like a strange way to put it, where you're just not ready.
Yeah.
You're not ready for the film. And I don't mean to use you as an example, but I'm going to.
Go ahead.
Harold and Maude.
I was just going to say that. When I first saw Harold and Maude, I was 17, 18. Mm-hmm. And I just watched the first 10 minutes of it and just walked away. I'm like, I can't. This is so stupid. Mm-hmm.
And then
when
we saw it at the Brattle
about 10 years ago.
Yay, Brattle!
I fell head over heels in love with it. And I still love it. It's one of the best comedies ever made.
We get out of that movie and he's like, we're going to Newberry's. And I'm like, what, now? Because Newberry's was right across the street.
The first thing I did was go buy the DVD.
Yeah. It's like 11:30 at night. We're running around Newberry's trying to find Harold and Maude.
It was 9:30 at night.
Oh, okay.
And yeah.
I mean, I can give examples from my own self. They're not as big of a gap year-wise. But the first time I saw Fargo, I was just sitting there going, I don't get it.
There are another couple of directors.
I just was sitting there going, I really don't get this movie.
You have liked them a lot more than I have.
And then I saw it recently again within the last 2 years. It was on TV one day and I was like, oh, fine. I'm just going to watch this again. And I watched it again and I was like, I don't know why, but for some reason this time, I actually like this movie. Mm-hmm. I actually am sitting there going, wow, I really care about these characters. Wow, this is a great story.
I admit, there are directors that I love and directors I'm not that fond of.
No, I know.
Scorsese, I'm not into his stuff. I'm not into Quentin Tarantino at all. I can tolerate Kill Bill, but I think Pulp Fiction is incredibly overrated. Yeah. And I'm not big into the Coens, although I love No Country for Old Men.
But you have to admit the ending was infuriating.
The ending was infuriating, but I love that film. It's the only film they've done that I'm a huge fan of.
Right, no.
And
there's some directors I love and there's some that I don't.
Martin McDonagh is the same way. In Bruges took a while to grow on me. I thought it was an interesting film, and I didn't really like it when we saw it, but after I thought about it for a while, and I ended up giving it a good review, I love 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yep.
That movie is spectacular.
Yep.
And it's because of the performances, mostly Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell, but Woody Harrelson and Caleb Landry Jones too. I love that movie. I'll watch it with you whenever it's on cable. It's one of my both of us won Best Picture for both of us, right?
Yeah.
Terrific, terrific film. And yet, I also love stuff like Happy Feet. And I admit I'm a sucker, and people who've listened to this show have known for quite a while that one of my guilty pleasure films is eCinemaOne, which I just find hilariously funny.
I mean, I'm completely unabashed about the fact that I love Akira Kurosawa. I think his work is some of the most brilliant films in the world, and one of my guilty pleasures is a film like Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, and if you don't like it, that's not my problem.
And we're both suckers for Svengoolie.
Yeah.
We don't
and
like
we're
all
huge
the
Mystery
movies
Science
he
Theater 3000 fans.
Well,
and I'm a huge...
I grew into one. I couldn't stand it when it first
I'm not
started.
the one that owns a Blu-ray version of Birdemic.
True. That's true.
So there.
You accused me of owning the Blu-ray of The Room the other day.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Sorry.
I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
Calm down, Captain Renault. The point we're trying to make is...
Everybody has different tastes.
Everybody has different tastes, and I used this... I'm actually going to jump back to one of my solo shows, Platinum Rose's Garden, which is a new episode up. Go check it out. I made a remark at the end of the show because I'm not really happy with one of the characters right now. He knows who he is. And
characters, not actors.
Well, the actor knows who he is too.
Don't equate the two.
No. He knows who he is. He's got green eyes and he's really cute.
Okay.
But I said I love the character, but right now I don't like him very much. I also said I wanted to punch him in his perfect teeth, ripping off a line from Captain America: Civil War. The point is, there's an old saying: hate the sin, love the sinner. Or if you don't want to take a religious look at it, love the player, hate the game.
Right.
You can just completely dislike a specific genre of film. Where the problem is when you make it like, well, those people who watch those films, they suck too.
Which they didn't do.
They didn't do, but a lot of people did take it that way.
They did.
Including me.
Yeah. And I did it first until I did some research and realized they were talking about the corporate machine.
And they have a right to, the thing is, they have a right to feel that way. The rest of us have a right to feel like, wow, you do know you're coming off like a cranky old man, right? You know.
But that can't be too cranky. He worked with Shaun White in American Express commercial, for Pete's sake.
Who did?
Martin Scorsese.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Or one of the credit card companies.
One of them, anyway. But I guess our big point is, and I realize this is going to sound very earthy, crunchy, hippie granola Woodstock, but that's
Can't we all just get along?
Yes! Movies are supposed to be about...
We can't get along. We've already shown that.
But see, that's the
Washington,
point.
D.C.
That's the point. Let's prove we're better than Washington, D.C. Let's prove...
It's kind of hard to do when it's Hollywood we're talking about.
Let's prove, as fans, that we can all be like, you know what, you dig this, I dig that, but we all dig movies. And let's all be cool with that. Don't be like, okay, these kind of movies aren't my thing, so they all suck and the people who watch them suck. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't be that person.
Right.
We're not saying that either of these men did that or are those people. But there's no reason for anybody else to take what they said and draw a line in the sand and be like, you have to be on that side and I have to be on this side. We're not sneeches.
Step across that line, rabbit. I dare ya.
That's what to take something from Dr. Seuss, we're not sneeches. Don't be a sneech.
Yep.
So that's all I had to say.
Okay. We got something new for you going on right now. It's something to help us continue to bring the best websites and podcasts possible to you. It's called the PNRNetworks Patron Circle. It is a revamped version of our original Patreon, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And PNR Network shows like the flagship show here, Subject Cinema, and all of the other stuff I host, Kim hosts, Eric and Valerie Lyon, and Anthony Lamberti host. Woo! We don't use advertising. We depend on you, our listener, and our readers over at the websites like eCinemaOne and eCinemaBoston to help us out. So we're making a personal appeal to all you guys out there to take the time to join. It's $5 a month. That's the cost, less than the cost of a large latte at Starbucks in most cities. 17 cents a day. And your $5 donation every month is going to help us do a lot of cool things over the next few months.
Yep.
We have all these cool things we're going to be doing, special features, opportunities for you to be involved with stuff. We'll have extra podcasts, extra articles, special polls. You'll get early access to some of Subject Cinema and other podcast specials, like our year-end stuff, our film festival stuff, and all that stuff, and more. If you join by November 10th, you get 2 special things right off the bat. You get a suitable for framing PNRNetworks Patron Circle Charter Membership Certificate, which is different from just a plain membership certificate.
Yep.
Charter members will get discounts on stuff. I'm working on that. And you'll be included in our Thanks for Giving video on Thanksgiving, running down all of our Patron Circle members and giving them a shout out.
Yep.
$5 a month is not much to ask, and we really, we've put in 15 years almost of hard work on this show and throughout our entire network, and we'd really appreciate it if you guys could help us out and help us do more for you. Because whatever before we had the tiers, now it's $5 a month. It's going to include all these great stuff. It's going to include monthly chats where you'll actually have a chance to talk to us about the shows and the stuff and what we do. It's going to have all these cool things. So please go over to our Patreon site at patreon.com/PNRNetworks. Sign up today. You'll be billed on the 1st of every month. When you sign up, your first payment will come out at this point in December, and you get 3 weeks of free stuff.
Yeah.
So you won't have to pay until December 1st. I think that's a great idea. It's helping us to grow and move on as we enter 2020 and beyond. We could really use your help. So please come over and join our new membership group, the PNRNetworks Patron Circle, and have fun with TC, Kim, Eric, Valerie, Anthony, and all the crazy people that run this crazy network of sites and shows.
Yes.
You'll be glad you did, and we'll definitely appreciate it. Thank you. We have other shows out there right now. In addition to Subject Cinema, we have Front Row 5 and 10, which will be back this week.
Yep.
We have Catastrophe Vortex returning in 2020. Kim has Platinum Rose's Garden, her supernatural show, which is going to be off another week, or is it back this coming week? She missed 2 weeks because of our cable issues.
I missed 2 weeks because the cable system got all wonky because of a storm. My show is up now with a double header. I have 2 reviews for the most recent episodes of Supernatural, Raising Hell and The Rupture.
Are they on their November hiatus already?
Not yet, no.
Not yet, okay. So you'll be back this week.
Yes, I will be back this week with a new episode.
Ring Around the Rosie
Yes.
is her wrestling program.
Yes.
We're going to be premiering a brand new spin-off of Ring Around the Rosie in the near future. Tentatively titled React Around the Rosie, which is going to include me because I have to watch this crap with her.
I'd also like to bring up, just as a fair warning, neither of those shows are safe to work.
Except Kaiju Corner, which is which is one of our Patron Circle podcasts.
I also have another YouTube channel show. It is called Platinum Rose RolePlay, and there's not.
And, I screwed up the domain when I bought that.
Oh.
You can go to it on YouTube. Just go search for Platinum Rose Roleplay. If you want to get directly to it, go to PlatinumRosePlay.com.
Okay.
I left out the role. And I didn't realize it, so I had a bunch of problems with the domains this weekend.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. But there's not much there right now. There's only 3 videos there right now. But
they're all awesome. Because it's her. They're all awesome because she's awesome.
Oh. They were written by me. All of the stuff on them was written by me. The videos are the video stuff that you see on the screen. The magic of all that is done by him. So if
she does all the recording, I do all the production work. It's a good team. Good works out well.
As we've mentioned, we also have other people that are part of our little island of misfit toys. They would include Eric and Valerie Lyon at Cavebabble, and they are amazing people, and you should go check out their stuff.
And Anthony Lamberti is currently taking a few weeks off as he's at Comic-Con this weekend in Rhode Island, which I can't wait to hear about tomorrow, or later this week. But Comic Grotto, Nerd Grotto will be back probably as a podcast. We've been talking, and he's more comfortable doing just the audio. Yeah. So he will probably be back as a podcast in the near future, and rather than the video stuff on YouTube. But we'll keep you informed, and he's always great fun.
He is. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, you can follow me at PlatinumRoseL at Twitter.com.
I'm at PNR. I'm not at PNR. That's wrong. That's the second week in a row I've done that. I'm at eCinemaOne, eCinemaBoston, and TKR Online for music stuff on Twitter. My music site, of course, the Kirkham Report, it hasn't done much, but Eurovision's starting to heat up, so it'll start getting busy. And before I forget, we forgot our 2 mini shows, 3-Minute Weekend and Tuesday Digidex on Fridays and Tuesdays, which are on their own channel, and Front Row 5 and 10 is on the Subject Cinema channel, although it may be getting its own channel soon.
Maybe.
And if you send in an idea to use on Front Row 5 and 10 right now, you win, and we use it on the air, you'll win a Front Row 5 and 10 t-shirt, because we have a swag shop coming. Keep an eye out.
Woo! And I think that's about it.
It is. We mean no disrespect to Mr. Scorsese or Mr. Coppola.
No. We
are both fans of, well, Scorsese at least, and Coppola for his productions, not necessarily his directions. We just wanted to clarify what we thought.
We are fans of the First Amendment, which
and
everybody has a right to
free
speech.
Yes. And we like everything. And until next week. For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
TTFN.
Excelsior!
Really?
I had to do it.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2018 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.